Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the second to last episode of the Summer Sports Spectacular on a Friday morning. Bringing it to you. Everything has changed this week. If you hadn't already listened to episode 20, Drew and I did a huge review on everything that happened in the NBA season this year, including our Milwaukee Bucks winning the NBA championship. Drew, I officially bought a shirt, a hat, and a lanyard. And I am Jordon Lawrenz talking to Drew Skyberg.
Well, Jordan, I thought you were a Celtic fan, so I see a little bandwagon copied, maybe? I don't know what's going on here.
The way I explained it to someone is I am from Wisconsin, so it's not a bandwagon. I was born here. They're my team, Wisconsin, through and through. You know, you can't take that away from me. There's no bandwagon here.
So I don't even know why the Boston stuff. I've never heard that story. Maybe that's for another time, but
Yeah, I honestly couldn't even tell you why I'm a Celtics fan. I think I just like they had more than a big three, but years ago when they had Paul Pierce, Ray Allen, Kevin Garnett, Rajon Rondo, KP, they had
Ryan
a lot.
Scalabrine.
Yes, with Doc Rivers coaching, that was a powerhouse back in the day. Maybe that's when I liked them. I don't know. But like I said, I liked Boston teams. I was a big Red Sox fan back in the day. Actually spawned a trip to Boston and whatever. That was such a fun trip. I still should have bought him signed Mookie Betts baseball. Think of how much cheaper they would have been back in 2015 compared to now. One of my biggest regrets in life right there. But we're not here to talk about baseball or basketball. We are here to talk about the 1992 NCAA Division 1A football season. Miami comes into the season number one in the preseason poll. They don't lose a game all year. They stay number one through and sitting pretty right behind them. Alabama, Crimson Tide. And these are two big teams, Drew. I mean, when you think of college football, now you think about Alabama, but I think people forget Miami was a powerhouse back in the day.
Yeah, in the 90s, I mean, Miami really was a successful program. They won a lot of games. Their quarterback, Gino Toretto, was 26-1, I believe, as a starter, something ridiculous
Correct.
like that.
Yep.
So, yeah, that just proves this Miami team is no joke.
After watching this game, I should say, we would not have expected Gino to be 26-1 as a starter.
Nope.
But we'll talk all about it. Before we get there, a few things. Back in college now, in episode 1, we talked about rule changes and conference changes. We got a few for you here in the 1992 season. Fumbles could now be recovered and advanced by the defense anywhere on the field. So previously, it was only applied to fumbles beyond the line of scrimmage, except for backward passes and muffed punts and kickoffs, which could be recovered by the defense, but not advanced. And this is huge because imagine getting a fumble and not being able to return it. Fumble returns can be the most exciting things at times.
Yeah, I'm surprised it was this long until that happened. I guess I really wouldn't have thought about it like that. Like, this is like 29 years ago, and they finally made that change now.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, imagine watching a game today and they get a fumble and they just got to stand there. That's wild to me. And one of the college rules I don't like is how even if a wide receiver is wide open and he makes a catch, but he falls down, like he dives to get it, he's down. So like in college, that's one of my pet peeves. You don't have to be touched to be down. If you touch the ground, you're down. So that's just something I've always not been a big fan of. I like the 1 foot rule though. What are your thoughts on that? 1 foot to be in bounds? I like it.
I like the 1 foot too. I mean, it makes those exciting catches like more probable to happen now because now we don't have to rule them incomplete if they don't have both feet in,
100%. I agree. Second rule change. Now we're back on track. While overtime was not introduced for regular season games until 1996, which is crazy to me, the Kansas tiebreaker procedure was permitted for the SEC championship game beginning in 1992. Both teams would be allowed a chance to score by beginning their drive at the 25-yard line. So another one here. There was no overtime until 96. That is crazy. I don't understand why I really just don't get it at all. So conference changes real quick. Just a few I wanted to mention. Akron goes from independent to the MAC. Arkansas goes from the SWC to the SEC. Arkansas State goes from Division 1 AA independent to Division 1 AA independent to Division 1A independent. So Arkansas State moving their way up. 2 more. Florida State goes from independent to the ACC. That's a big jump. And then Fresno State goes from the Big West to the WAC. So that's basically everything there. We're going to talk about the conference standings real quick. Drew, your prediction, 1992, how did Wisconsin do? What do you think?
I'm gonna say, the early '90s. I'm gonna say they weren't that good yet. I'm gonna say they were. How many games did they play?
11 games they played.
So I'm gonna say like 5 and 6.
That is 100% correct. 5 and 6 was Wisconsin.
Look.
You didn't look?
Did not look. I promise you.
We'll take your word on it. I mean, you could have just not said anything. The people would have had no clue. But of the tab here, he says he didn't look. Wisconsin was 5 and 6, just 3 and 5 in conference. Only 2 ranked teams from the Big Ten, those being Michigan and Ohio State. But Drew, you're going to talk all about these Miami Hurricanes, or were you talking Alabama? I don't even remember what we said.
I'm talking Alabama, Jordon Lawrenz.
Okay, go for it. They were technically number 2, but obviously they were number 1, way ahead in their standings.
Yeah, they really were, Jordan. Their schedule, I mean, they won all their games fairly easy. I mean, they had a few close games here and there. Like they had a 17-10 victory against Southern Mississippi, and then one big game, October 17th, 1992, at number 13 Tennessee. 97,388 people were in attendance, and it was on ABC, and they got to watch the Alabama Crimson Tide beat Tennessee 17-10. And this was also a great year for Alabama, considering it was their 100th year as a not a football program, but as a it actually was 100 years of Alabama football. I stand corrected. So
wow,
that's crazy stuff. And this team, I mean, they're top of the SEC Western Division with a 8-0 conference record, and then they went to go and play 6-2 Florida, number 10 Florida in the SEC championship, and they won that 28-21. So they're so far 12-0, and they made it to the championship, then Sugar Bowl.
That they did. And who are they playing? Number 1 Miami. This Miami team comes into the year undefeated, reigning, defending national champions, and they're looking to go back-to-back 24-7 win against Iowa, 38-0 win over Florida A&M. Season is looking good to start, but then an 8-7 win over Arizona. Talk about a downgrade, just putting up 8 points, barely getting the win. Drew had a big game. There's a big one for Miami as well. 96,000 people as number 1 Miami traveled to Penn State. So that is a huge game. 96,000 people for a noon kickoff there. Miami played number 23, number 3, number 7, and number 8 throughout the year. So they're playing some pretty good competition. Alabama played, it looks like, three top 15-ish seeds as well. So that's really not too bad. And then they finish off the year 63-17 win over San Diego State, that being on November 28th. And I think this is one of the big keys. They go from November 28th to January 1st without playing a game. That is a lot of off time as they wait for the national championship. Alabama went December 5th to January 1st. So not like it's much better, but still, you got a month to prepare for the other team, the Louisiana Superdome Sugar Bowl. Technically, it's the 1993 Sugar Bowl because it took place on January 1st, but it's for the 1992 season for the national championship. And Drew, it's nothing. There's nothing bigger than this in football. Number 1 seed, number 2 seed. Let's settle it on the field.
Exactly. And right when I turn the game on, also, Jordan, I want to touch on that right away. I see the great Keith Jackson yet again, and then we see one of our old friends, Bob Greasy, from the Super Bowl 7. So that was great to see. I don't know if you made that connection, but
absolutely, these guys just keep coming back. We can't get rid of them. I'm sure they're. Go ahead.
I don't know. I'm just talking about history. I mean, just it's all these previous 8 episodes and all this one. We always just see stuff reoccur. We got old friends the whole time. We saw Mike Stanton for baseball. We saw him pitch in 2 World Series games we watched. So that's just how it works.
It's awesome. And like we said, guys, the wheel chose these games. I had like 25 that we put together. And one day after we recorded a podcast, we spun the wheel and got the whole schedule banged out. But I don't think we're going to see any of these guys next week. 1976 college basketball. But who knows? You never know, right? What if they're just sitting in the crowd doing nothing? So the game is on ABC. as we turn it on. And now we have to say this was a gridiron classic from ESPN. So that means little bits and pieces are cut out from time to time. They try and keep it to like a 2-hour game to air on ESPN Classic, that channel. That's not a thing anymore, is it? They got rid of that, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I noticed on the bottom because they had like the headlines.
It was like modern day stuff.
It was from 2016, 2017 because it was like there was like Greg Monroe and the Bucks had a good game and stuff like that.
I was so confused. It was talking about Klay Thompson and on the bottom, and I'm like, there's no way this dude played basketball in 92. Like, what's going on? But yeah, that was modern day stuff on the bottom. Regardless, it was about an hour, 34 minutes, I believe, this game. First half absolutely flew by. And as we know, Gino Torretta, as we said, 26-1 as a starter for this Miami team, taking on Jay Barker from Alabama. But quickly we realized it's the running game from Alabama. Miami 3-and-out to start, so jitters getting to them a little bit. They can't go anywhere. Alabama, huge punt return. They get down to the 24-yard line, but they aren't able to convert. It's 3-0. They make a field goal, and I think right away, big stop by a Miami defense. I thought they were going to be a powerhouse, and they were going to stick their ground, but it didn't really happen throughout the rest of the game.
No, it really didn't, Jordan. What we saw actually the Alabama defense step up. I mean, they got 7 guys, 7 of their 11 starters were all SEC. 4 of those 7 were All-Americans, and that defense, they really got Gino Torretta this number.
Yeah, they did. We'll talk about stats throughout the game. I got some halftime ones, third quarter ones, and we'll talk about it at the end. But Miami, 3rd and 4, they have a nice little screen pass, gets them past midfield. They make a field goal, so field goals have been huge in all the games we've been watching. Some of them were like multiple missed ones, but Miami makes one there. Alabama, we go to the second quarter now. They make a field goal, so they're up 6-3 right now. And then Alabama has the ball. So like I said, the feet cut. Alabama, we saw make a field goal, and now we're at 10:48 in the second quarter. Alabama ball once again, but they fumble. Miami gets the ball off a fumble. They're trying to move it down. Then they throw an interception, and early into this game, both teams have turned the ball over twice, and one of the key players that took advantage of these, Derek Lassick. This dude had 105 yards on the ground midway through the second quarter. Then it is a rushing touchdown for Sherman Williams. He finished the game just 7 carries for 18 yards, but he gets the touchdown 3 here. It's 13-3, Alabama leading. What are you thinking about Miami at this point? They aren't looking too well.
They really aren't. What really killed them was, turnovers, and then, Derek, like the Alabama running game was they were just a powerhouse. They had some good runs. Offensive guards, they were pulling, they were cut blocking their guys, and Lasik was really able to get wherever he wanted. It didn't really matter who they had at quarterback because they were just running the ball. They knew they could run it on Miami, and they knew they couldn't stop it, and that's what happened.
Are you ready for these halftime stats? So Miami makes a field goal, 13-6 at halftime. Listen to this. Alabama, 152 rushing yards to 6 of Miami. Miami, 127 passing yards to 12 of Alabama. This is insane. You want to talk about 2 different teams, 2 entirely different game plans. Alabama has 146 more rushing yards than Miami, and Miami has 115 more passing yards. It doesn't get any more opposite than this. Alabama had 16 minutes, 55 seconds for time of possession, 13:05 for Miami. Anything you want to touch on there, or you want to jump into the second half?
Yeah, totally different strategies. And that's Gino Torretta. That's really why he won the he won the 1992 Heisman. And the main reason why was the system he was in really allowed him to just be a gunslinger, just throw the ball downfield. And that's kind of what their game plan was against Alabama. And Alabama had some blitz packages dialed up, and he really didn't have a lot of time at all. The offensive line was truly a weakness for this Miami team.
I would have to agree there. Like the Buccaneers-Packers game, Aaron Rodgers goes down over and over and over again, keeps getting hit. So we'll talk about Gino at the end of the game. He had a lot of passing yards. He still had a decent day that wise, but the passes just weren't going anywhere. They weren't getting points out of it, weren't making the most of it. Here in the second half, Alabama 3-0 right away. So Miami, you're down 7. This is your chance to take over. But they throw an interception on the very first play. And Alabama, they get their points, man. 14 points off Miami turnovers right away. It's 20-6. That was Elastic getting a touchdown. It was on a beautiful second effort, getting into that goal line. 2 touchdowns on the day for Elastic. Just a 21-yard drive. So they really didn't have to do anything off that interception. Alabama up 20-6. And then they throw a pick 6. At this point, I wanted to turn the game off. You're looking at a guy in Gino Toretta, Heisman Trophy winner, 26-1 as a starter. Dare I say, maybe having the worst game of his life?
Yeah, I would not disagree with that, Jordan. And I mean, Gino Toretta, like scouts, they held this game a little bit against him. He was not like a prospect, who was like going to be a top guy in the draft, even though he just won the Heisman, Jordan. Guess what round he got drafted in the NFL?
5th.
7th.
Oh, wow, even worse.
7th round. He only saw one action in one NFL game. And
was that preseason or was it a normal game?
Nope, normal game. Okay. 5 for 16, 41 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and that was it.
Hey, at least he got a touchdown out of that. I mean, yeah. Still, it's terrible though for you to go Heisman. It's another one of those things. College to pros, a completely different animal, and it takes a really special player to be able to play at such a high level in both of those. It was talking about Baker Mayfield and Lamar Jackson on the bottom of the screen as well. I mean, they were mentioning some big names at the time, but 27-6. Alabama leads at this point, and it looks like Miami's doing something good. They have a nice deep throw, defender running down the field, and the ball is stripped out of his hands. Couldn't have been done any better by Alabama. However, they were offside, so none of it mattered. This strip play, though, I mean, this was fantastic.
Yeah, it was truly just a heads-up play by the defender, and it was one of the crazier plays I've seen. I mean, there's so many things going on: a penalty, a great throw, an excellent throw, and then just that, like you mentioned, that strip from behind, and just it had a lot of action that one play.
That was huge, and probably the best throw all game. And then for it to be almost fumbled, but they get the offside. Miami can't do anything; they're forced to punt. Alabama ball around midfield, and then our feed cuts once again. So it's in the 4th quarter, and I had a few more stats I wanted to read through the 3rd quarter here. I mean, it's 27-6. Miami, they're trailing. They've had, the play-wise, though, Miami's had 49 plays. Alabama has had 55, so they're kind of close in that aspect. Alabama, 12 first downs to 10 of Miami. But here we go with this again. 209 rushing yards for Alabama, 11 rushing yards for Miami, then passing 187 for Miami, 18 for Alabama, 4 turnovers through 3 quarters of play for Miami, and we know Alabama has been making the most of those turnovers. So Miami ball as we see it, and they're forced to punt once again. I mean, at least their punter's getting some action because really nothing else is going against them. And what about this call here? The false start? No one moved. This was offside. I don't understand what happened.
I think they called the false start in the center, if I'm not mistaken, because he kind of moved his head up, like he flinched up with the guy, but the guy was like right on top of him. So I don't know what you expect to do, just like flop, like just take the hit. Like it was an interesting call, but I saw what the refs were coming from, but like at the same time, like come on.
Yeah, in live action though, you see the offside first. Like you really got to be looking super close.
It took me the replay to finally like understand a little bit, but like I don't know how they would call that in live time. That just was nuts.
I was going to mention that we did get replays for some plays, which is good. No scoreboard throughout. I mean, they put it up from here and there, which I still find super annoying. But this call as well, you talked about the replay. I've actually rewound it because the first time I didn't see anything, and then I went back and I was like, and the announcer sure really didn't do a good job explaining anything either. But speaking of the announcers, this punt return from Miami, they didn't say a word. This is a 78-yard punt return touchdown, a record in the Sugar Bowl. Miami could be getting back into this game. It's 27-13 after it. But this punt return call, one of the worst things I have ever heard in my life. He wasn't over enthusiastic. He wasn't annoying. He was just quiet. He was monotone. He acted like nothing happened.
Yeah, like and it was Kevin Williams. He had this like fantastic return. He's breaking tackles. It looked like he was down, and then he managed to just cut right and just stay in bounds down the line, 78 yards. And the guy and the announcer was Keith Jackson too, and he's such a great announcer. He's so well known, and it might have been one of his worst calls ever. Oh, Williams
It's
down.
terrible.
Oh, he stays in. Is he in bounds? We don't know. Touchdown.
Yeah,
It wasn't bad.
I don't even think it was that enthusiastic.
It wasn't.
Like, it was like a golf announcer at this point. It was terrible. 78 yards, Sugar Bowl record for a punt return for a touchdown, and he got absolutely nothing for it. I mean, you got to watch it. He's breaking through tackles, like Drew said. He barely stayed in bounds, too. He was getting close on the sideline, but he makes it. 27-13. Miami crawling back into this game. There's still 12 minutes left, so there's a lot of time on the clock. 3rd and 1. Alabama's stuffed. Miami defense comes up big. Coach does go for it. 4th and inches. We're around midfield at this point, and they get it. Alabama converts on the 4th and inches. That's got to be so deflating for Miami. And then the pass interference penalty. Did you see this? There was so many guys swarming them. Just a idiocracy from the Miami defenders.
Yeah, I mean, there's 3 Miami defenders versus 1 Alabama receiver, and they just trampled over the guy. It wasn't even like, I don't even know how to explain it. They weren't even going for the ball, and all you saw was the Alabama receiver just on the ground, just laid out, and it was like, nice one.
I think he was down before the ball even like got to where they needed to be. Like, it was that bad.
Yeah.
Just frustration at that point. Long drive for Alabama, and they get a touchdown. So at this point, 34-13. I also think one of the things for Keith Jackson, maybe he was an Alabama fan. He wasn't a fan of the touchdown, but I don't know. This was just a one-sided beating. Under 5 minutes to go, Alabama ball. Then they just kind of cut our feeds again. Miami, they're back at their own 5. What are they supposed to do? You're down 34-13. Minute and a half left. These announcers are thanking everyone already. They know this game is over. They just want to get out of here. Miami has a nice long drive to end it, but can't even get the touchdown on the last play. Clock expired, and that's our final. Alabama, 34. Miami, 13. And it was just a crazy, crazy game because you've got the 1 seed coming in against the 2 seed. Like we said, Miami's been the number 1 all year long, and for it to just end like that, such a disappointment for Miami.
Truly was. Miami was actually favored to win this game, which before the game, which I don't know exactly how much they were favored by. I've read that they were
8
favored.
points.
8 points. That is incredible because this Alabama defense was like, this team was known for their defense. They led the nation in fewest points allowed. They only allowed 9.2 per game in the regular season. So that's crazy. And they ended up preventing Miami from even scoring an offensive touchdown during the game. So I'm just shocked. Like this Alabama defense, I mean, they really just won the game granted the offense did well with Lastic as well, but like they were really a big part of this game.
Absolutely, they were. Can't give them enough credit because if it wasn't for them, or even if, say Gino turns things around and he has a heck of a night, who knows what we would have had in this game. But that defense sure seemed to have his number. Alabama now, after this win, they've won 11 of the last 12 against Miami, so no one can say bad things about Alabama against good teams. And in this season, I forgot to mention, they only allowed 1 touchdown in the first quarter. So that's really big. It's not like their defense got off to a slow start. They did well through and through. Derek Lassick, the MVP of this game, rightfully so, right? 28 carries, 135 yards, 2 touchdowns. No debate here.
Yeah, I certainly think he should be really thanking his offensive line. He's a really strong runner, though, but he got some excellent blocks this whole game, and that was something else.
Can't have a great runner without a great O-line. And Terrence Lynch, 5 carries, 39 yards. Sherman Williams, 7 carries, 18 yards with the touchdown there. As for Miami, their rushers, Larry Jones, 5 carries, 28 yards. Donnell Bennett, 3 carries, 26 yards. Then they had 2 guys with 1 yard and 1 guy with -8 yards. So we knew Miami had no rushing game at all. Jay Barker, passing-wise for Alabama, horrendous. 4 completions out of 13 attempts. 2 interceptions he threw for 18 yards. You want to talk about a poor passer rating? That's got to be terrible. Gino Torretta for Miami, 24 completions on 56 attempts, threw 3 interceptions. didn't throw a single touchdown, finishes the game 278 yards, but at the end of the day, really nothing that could happen at all. So anything else about this game, or we jump into awards now?
Yeah, we'll talk some awards now. I'll start with the Heisman Trophy. I'll go right with the most outstanding player. Winner was maybe not the most outstanding player, I don't think. Gino Torretta won with 1,400 votes. And in second, Marshall Falk. So we know his game actually transferred to the NFL very nicely from San Diego State as a sophomore with 1,080 votes. And then Garrison Hurst, a running back from Georgia, 982. Marvin Jones from Florida State as a linebacker, 392. And then Reggie Brooks from Notre Dame, senior running back, 294.
So real quick, before you move on to the next award, I just Googled Gino's stats from the year, right? I don't think we mentioned it. He had 19 touchdowns and 7 interceptions in the year. So that's really not that great of a ratio throwing wise. 228 completions on 402 attempts. So that's 56.7%. Out of those 228 completions, 3,060 yards he threw for. So 7.6 yards completion. Not the best in the world. 19 touchdowns to 7 interceptions. We'd obviously have to see the rest of them, but looking at stats wise, that's really not that remarkable of a year.
No, but what got him it, he was arguably had the best quarterback stats that year. It was a really weak year for quarterbacks in college football, and I guess they favored the quarterback over the running back because the 3 of the 5 finalists were running backs, but Gino Torretta was by far the best quarterback, so that's kind of what won him for him in the regular season because the 90s passing wasn't as big of a deal as it is now. So, but we got some other awards I got to read. Because Gino Torretta actually won a few of these other awards.
He won plenty as I'm looking at him.
The Maxwell Award, which is given to the College Player of the Year, Gino Torretta. Walter Camp Award, Gino Torretta. Davey O'Brien Award, Gino Torretta. And then AFCA Coach of the Year, Gene Stallings of Alabama. And then the Paul Bryant Coach of the Year, Gene Stallings of Alabama. So Alabama was really recognized.
Why are there 2 Coach of the Year awards? I don't understand.
I am not sure. One of them is given by the American Football Coaches Association, and the other one is given by the American Heart Association. So there's some fun fact there.
The American Heart Association giving out Coach of the Year awards. Interesting. Any other ones you want to touch on here, or not really? They're kind of all just meh.
Yeah. This American Heart Association award I want to touch on for another second. It's been given annually since 1986 to NCAA college coaches to lose the Coach of the Year, and it's given at a banquet that is hosted each year in January in Houston, Texas.
That's kind of cool. At least you win that award, you get to go down there to the banquet. But that was it. Out of 107 teams in Division 1A, Alabama defeats Miami in the Sugar Bowl, the national championship. That's everything, guys. Alabama defeating Miami easily. I would say the worst game we watched. Drew, you might disagree.
I disagree a little bit, Jordan. I really liked watching this Alabama defense. They had 5 down linemen sometimes. They would sometimes ran 4, and they had out of a linebacker, kind of like either blitz or he showed a blitz and he dropped back in coverage. I think this Alabama team is really fun to watch.
So what would be worse than this is my question of the games we watched. Spurs Pistons, that was okay.
I gotta think. I think Super Bowl 3 might have been the worst for me last week.
Yeah, I should have thought of that. That one was Super Bowl 7 too. I know you weren't a big Super Bowl 7 guy either, but yeah, we try. I figured 1 seed, 2 seed coming in. There's no way this is a bad game, and it was just one-sided, and we see that a lot. Alabama, Ohio State, what just happened this past year in the championship wasn't even close. I remember I was announcing a game, and the guy next to me in the booth was giving me updates and stuff because he heard me mention it. It was so one-sided, and I was shocked to hear it. But that's everything for episode 9. Only 1 episode left, and most likely it's going to be Friday again next week. We're going to have to fine-tune things, figure it out. Stay tuned to our social media pages for that. You'll get all the updates on Facebook, Jordan and Drew, the Sports Crew. Follow and like us on their Instagram, Jordan Drew _Sports Crew. YouTube, We're on Jordan and Drew, the Sports Crew, Apple Podcast. Leave us a 5-star review. Follow us on there. And that's all I got. Drew, what you?
You can follow me, Twitter, Drew Skyberg, DrewSkyberg. That's all I got, Jordan, as well.
Drew and I are going to be the newest writers for Wisconsin Sports Page. So catch us on there. We'll be making it. And yeah, that's basically everything. So thank you all for listening to episode 9 of Jordan and Drew's Summer Sports Spectacular, the perfect podcast for you.